Oh. Hey, it's Mike Brennan, and we're back. Gosh, it's already January 22nd. Hard to believe. But anyway, so we have Gary Erickson back on the show today. And so he's one of our sponsors that we appreciate. And also for y'all out there, I've worked in Memphis. I can't quite let y'all. For y'all folks out there, he's also going to be talking about what it takes to be a senior IT leader. Now, that's an important thing if you're looking to move up through the ranks. And of course, Gary and his team can help you with that as well, because they get a lot of job postings in Michigan and around the country. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. And of course, Matt Roush, my co-host, is here today. Say hi, Matt.
Hi, Matt. How are
Very
you?
good. Yeah, he can be taught. So, okay, good.
Okay.
And so let's start out with, in fact, it's Gary, not Gary's personal anniversary. He's older than 20, but Executive Search Partners is 20 years now, right, Gary?
Wow, you're right. Well, we started right in January of 2003. Wow, 20 years. Longest job I've ever held.
Yeah, I hear you. You know, my current record right now is this job, which is 24 years. Um,
Wow.
so what is the market like today for IT leaders in 2024? And it'd be kind of interesting to hear your thoughts on how it's changed over the last 20 years or so.
It's I get a lot of questions about how the good morning anyway. Hi Matt and hi Mike, how are you?
Doing good.
And go Lions. I hope they
Go
beat San
Lions,
Fran.
yes.
Yeah, that's right. The the market for senior IT leaders has been sort of down for the last maybe year and a couple months. Ever since we started getting inflation fears and recession fears, I sense that a lot of that concern is going away. There's a survey recently that said that people are now beginning to feel better about the economy, the job market, or the unemployment rate is proven to be held pretty low. We're hoping that the market for senior IT leaders for 2024 ticks back up to what it was like in 2022, when it was a very robust market. We have some early indications that that might be true, but nothing that I would bet a lot of money on one way or the other than experience.
Hmm.
So how has the market changed for those senior IT leaders? Is there any change in the skill sets required or the skill sets desired by recruiters?
Well, we've been, as Mike pointed out, we've been in business for 20 years, and IT has always been an enabler of the business, but for a long time, most IT people, not most, a lot of IT people and a lot of company leaders looked at IT as the people that ran the computer systems and not as an integral part of the business. But the pandemic proved how important it was to have robust computer systems for, attracting and retaining customers, providing remote access for your workforce, and being able to extend your presence into new markets that perhaps you hadn't been able to get into before quickly and easily because you had the robust IT systems to do that. Now, not every company was like that, but a lot of companies recognize now how important it is for IT to be an integral part of the senior leadership team. What does that mean for the senior IT leader? Well, if they're going to be recruited to the company who's looking for somebody to help transform how they do business, they need to understand the business. They need to understand how IT can make things faster, better, quicker, how it can improve efficiencies, how it can attract and retain customers, how it can provide analytical data so you can examine how you're doing in a whole variety of ways that you can't do today. And now the new one, artificial intelligence. How is artificial intelligence going to help people in the company improve productivity? Is it going to reduce jobs, change jobs? Is it going to add new ways of providing products and services to customers? So the senior IT leader these days has got to be a business person first and a technology second.
Well, the other thing I think
Technologist
that's
second.
changed, I think the big change over 20 years is you also got to be really cybersecurity savvy. That's where the CTOs come in too. And our CISOs as well. All these are different acronyms. But I mean, the bad guys weren't as good as they are now 20 years ago, right?
Yep. Yep. Well, I focus on the senior IT leader being part of the business. But if you're running an IT organization, there's three pieces to that IT organization. Number one, I call running the railroad, which is daily operations, make sure the computers stay up. It means cybersecurity, make sure the bad guys can't get in and attack you, make sure you can deny denial of service attacks. That's called running the railroad. You've also got and the organization. How do you run an IT organization? How do you make sure you're doing a good job? How do you have the tools and capabilities so that when somebody in the company says, "Hey, I'd like you to," or you help encourage them to say, "I'd like you to do this," how do you get it done on time and under budget? So the senior IT leader needs to be a good run the railroad person. The second thing they have to do is they have to be a good leader of manager of projects. So anytime we're going to do something for the company, how do we make sure we take it from specification to implementation? How do we implement change management? And then if you do that well, then the third thing you've got to do, you now have an opportunity to be part of the C-suite and help the senior IT or senior company leaders improve the business. One of the questions that I always ask people who are in IT, I said, if you're going to interview with a company, the number one client for your interview is going to be the president of the company. How would you tell that president of the company how you're going to make his company better? That's how IT leaders, I think, should think about their job, even though they've also got to be cybersecurity savvy and operational savvy and project management savvy.
Yeah. So would that be the number one requirement then for looking at senior IT leaders, what you just described, or would it be slightly different?
All the searches that we've done for senior IT leaders, and we just completed one CIO search and we're in the middle of doing another one. Every single one of them wants a business person, somebody who can talk the business language. So that is the number one requirement. But we also make sure they know how to do all the other stuff by asking them about their track record. How do they do it? How do they go about accomplishing that? What do they know about cybersecurity? What do they know about computer operations? What do they know about outsourcing? Number of topics that we quiz potential CIOs on.
And of course, for all those capabilities, we're probably in the 200,000 plus kind of range for salaries, that sort of thing, or not?
Easily. Well, it depends on the size of the company, of course. But if you take maybe $100 million to $500 million company, you're somewhere in the maybe 200 to 225 range. But once you start getting into the $1 billion company on up, you start accelerating from there. And if you look at most of the tier one automotive suppliers in Southeast Michigan, now I'm probably going to get people coming back saying I don't make that much, but the ones that are really doing really well, say $5 to $10 billion tier one auto supplier or bigger, the IT leaders are going to be making $275 to $350 base salary. They're also going to be getting a 35 to 60% bonus, and they're probably going to get some form of equity. So the total package might be north of $500,000.
Wow, that's more than Matt makes. So
yeah. Well, listen, as someone who's involved, obviously you can tell from what's behind me here on the screen, in higher education, it's always interesting to me where the IT programs in higher education come out of. In some universities like Lawrence Tech and I think Western, IT comes out of the business school. Other places it comes out of the Department of Mathematics. Other places it comes out of the engineering school. As you talk to recruiters, is there a preferred pathway for senior IT management in terms of sort of how they got started, where they got their education, how they got their education?
There's two pieces to that. That's a really good question, because I've been involved with some of the companies in terms of educational institutions and advising them on how the education that you've got to provide to senior IT leaders. Usually what happens is the first thing you want to do is get a bachelor in computer science, which is a lot of the blocking and tackling skills. So you understand things like cybersecurity and programming and operations and project management. Those are the kind of basic blocking and tackling skills I think you've got to have. And that's how you're going to get your first job. You're not going to be a CIO right out of the gate. But at the same time, if the only thing you're being taught is, how to program, without any idea of how it's really being used for the company that you're going to work for, that's not sufficient. What we see a lot of those people go beyond their bachelor's degree and get an MBA, where they're focused more on what's the business all about. Not a master's in statistics or a master's in computer science, but a master in business. So the combination of the technical strong background and the business enhancement to that technical background is what we like to see, and what most companies tell us they'd like to see for their senior IT leaders.
Okay. Interesting. Thanks.
As we come down here towards the end of the segment, I guess the important part now is when someone wants to work with you to get one of these jobs, what sort of they should be preparing, like resumes, what they've done in the past. I mean, tell these candidates what they need to know before they contact you.
Well, I hinted at that a little bit when I said that think about who your audience is for these kind of jobs. If you want a CIO job and you want to prove to somebody that you're a good business leader, who are you going to be talking to? And you're going to be talking to the president of the company.
Right.
So think about, from the president's perspective, what does he need in a senior IT leader? What kind of questions could he ask you? And how would you respond to him? And if he were to say something like, tell me about how you really helped your company improve the last time, are you going to say, well, I put in this worldwide email system, right? Or to your point, I really put in a lot of cybersecurity. That's sort of a yawn. It's not even important. So what we recommend that people do is they go back over the last 5 to 10 years of their career and they write down some success stories that are business focused, starting, and we call it PAR, but other people have CAR and SAR and STAR as the format. But what was the business problem that you were trying to solve? And that's got to be a business problem, not a technical problem. All right. If I see people give me a problem and I say, well, how'd that affect the business? And they can't tell me, they weren't really working on a business problem. Number 2 is, what actions did you take or lead? So it's problem, actions, and then finally, measurable results. How did you really improve the business? Did you save costs? Did you increase sales? Really, those are the only 2 key measurements that count in a company: increase sales or reduce costs. So write down these success stories, use some of them on your resume, be prepared to answer with answers to questions that you might get using some of these success stories. That's our number 1 advice to candidates who are looking for a CIO position.
Okay, Gary, so you've got people all fired up now to get a hold of you and use your company's services. Please, in the last 30 seconds or so here, tell us how to reach you. Tell us how to reach Executive Search Partners.
Well, you can go to our website where all the contact information is about all of our partners, but it's www.execsearchpartners.com.